So several different threads. I've worked in, I counted recently, something like more than 24 industries. And the challenges that industries face are obviously different and specific, right? Like, thank God I don't have to deal with food going off anymore, right? I don't have to deal with hourly employees working behind a counter serving customers. But at the end of the day, industries across the board have a lot of very similar problems that all boil down to human challenges, ego, the scope of work, behavior change, P&L, right? Like, we're all human at the end of the day, and even though we hold up the front of like, no, this is business, there's more commonality across industries than there is not. But when I look at why didn't I create more media at the early days of Robin's Cafe, first of all, I was insanely busy, right? I was building a restaurant with zero experience. But the task of media, or in some ways the task of storytelling, was too big. It's easy to look back now and like tell the story and connect the dots or create a compelling narrative. But at the time I was deep in the weeds. I didn't know how to do it. And what I wish I had now was the day-to-day that then I could tell as a narrative in the future. The idea of paying tens of thousands of dollars for a beautiful fancy trailer was out of my league. And it just was not, I didn't apply what I know and what I in some ways knew at the time about behavior change to make the task small, right? Because all I really needed to do was to pull out my iPhone, which didn't have quite as good a camera as this one, but like pretty close, and hold it up or have someone else hold it up and speak into it 3 minutes a day, right? We make the task, whatever the marketing or messaging or any task, go to the gym every day, right? Do 50 push-ups, right? Floss your teeth twice a day instead of once a day or mostly once a day. We make the task so big that then we never get started. One of my backgrounds, I was a lab member with BJ Fogg at Stanford, so the Persuasive Technology and Behavior Change Lab. He's given TED Talks and he's got a lot of resources, which I'll share later. But we're going to spend some of the morning talking about behavior change. Because sure, if you have an unlimited budget, by all means, go and spend. But like at the end of the day, we all have unlimited time. And the task of what we're trying to accomplish today isn't going to get done in a single day. But what you can do is take the baby steps. In organization change, and Aaron, your former boss, often says, to take something like Pepsi or Chanel or Spotify or Airbnb or Funtime Cinemas and change the direction of an organization, you can't do it overnight, right? And trying to do that is like, okay, take a sailboat, leave New York, say, which way is east from here? That way. Let's somewhere there. So I'm going to go to London, and I'm going to go this way, and not look at a map, not look at a compass, and not change my direction until I hit land. I'm not going to end up in London, right? The way to change the shape, especially of a large, like global organization, the McDonald's, the Pepsis, the Chanels of the world, is plotting the course as you go, is taking the little tiny step every single day so that I'm not all of a sudden in South Africa and say, oh shit, I haven't looked at a map in a while, right? But I'm figuring it out. And it's true for all of us. I train physically. I'm an acrobat, former circus performer. I train physically when I'm home in the Bay Area 2 to 3 hours a day, right? And sometimes that's like 5 to 7 in the morning. And people will look at that and say, how do you do that, right? Because from where they are to where I am is incomprehensible, right? But they don't see all of the mishaps and all of the training and all of the steps. And for me, all of the joy along the way. I don't do handstands an hour a day. My goal in the next 18 months is to do a one-arm handstand, and I'm getting there. It's going to be a long road, but it doesn't happen overnight. I know realistically that it's a long shot for me to have that within a year and a half of every single day practice. I wouldn't do that practice just for the end outcome. I do the practice for the joy of every single day. And so it's a matter of breaking down the steps BJ Fogg tells the story of if you want to start flossing your teeth, the goal is not force yourself, floss your teeth. You know, if you haven't been flossing lately, get blood in your teeth, right? Like, kind of get grossed out, kind of be exhausted of it, and not floss your teeth tomorrow. You make it so small as to be seemingly ridiculous and easy. You floss one tooth, and that's success. And I've met all of you. We're all in this room ambitious. If you floss one tooth, you're going to floss at least some more of your teeth, right? But success, the victory moment, the I did it moment, is after you've flossed just one tooth. Because you make the barrier for entry so small as to be like a little ridiculous, and you do it. The media that I wanted around Robin's Cafe, and we did a bunch of media, right? But was a Super Bowl commercial, at least in my brain, right? It was hiring a full-time videographer, it was having a team, it was having an employee managing Instagram full-time, it was putting tens of thousands of dollars in advertising to Facebook when I didn't know anything about advertising. Like, it was too big. The first step could have been like, hey, Onika, will you hold the camera while I talk at it? And I'm never going to post it, but at least I've recorded that. At least I've gotten started. And so one of my goals for all of you today is to help isolate in the directions that you want to go. What are a couple of those first next steps? And then after we've talked about behavior change and helped isolate some of those first next steps, then it's going into audience messaging. How are you getting that across? But it's silly to put up a video on Instagram stories if your audience is actually, you know, out the street and you could just go talk to them. We spend in the marketing world a lot of time talking about platforms and a lot about how, like, what should our strategy be for a specific platform or a specific context, without saying, how are we going to get there? Who are we trying to reach? And what message is going to resonate with them?